Hey Kids Cook Real Food, Katie Kimball here, and I am super thrilled to host Dr. Elisa Song here today. Dr. Song is a holistic pediatrician from California. She opened one of the first, and definitely the best, holistic pediatric practices in the U.S. Now, what does that mean, holistic pediatrician? That means she's an MD, real deal doctor, can prescribe stuff, but she balances all that with an integrative approach with functional medicine, homeopathy, herbs, essential oils, acupuncture. All of that stuff is there for the kids in her practice. She also has an amazing online presence at healthykidshappykids.com. And we're going to talk a little bit today about what she does there. Mostly today, though, we're talking about poop, which is awesome. What a great title. Let's talk about poop with a holistic pediatrician who teaches her patients' parents to look at their kids' poop, yeah?
Of course. You know, I teach my parents and kids to look at their poop. And, you know, when kids come to the office and I ask them what their poop looks like and how often they're pooping, a lot of times, of course, they'll giggle, right? They'll say, oh my gosh, right, the doctor's talking about poop. And I let them know, you know, in the doctor's office, it's not potty talk, right? It's really, really important to know what your poop looks like, how often you're going, what your tummy feels like. So I talk about poop with every single kid and parent that comes into the office.
I think that's probably pretty unique, and I love that about you. So why should we care? What are we going to learn about our poo, and what is a normal poo? If I'm watching, I kind of want normal.
Yeah, so the first thing is to know what's normal and what's not normal, right? And a lot of kids, I mean, I've had kids come in, and especially at the point where they're a little more independent and they're going to the bathroom by themselves and they're wiping themselves. And as a parent, you're like, I don't know what their poop looks like. I used to know when they were in diapers or when they were potty training, but I have no idea. And so as we talk about it, I mean, sometimes we're shocked that some kids are going maybe once every week. You know, some kids are going 5 times a day, right? So there's a huge varied range, and a lot of kids and adults have no idea what's normal. So a normal poop, we have some guidelines. Now, I'm going to show you a picture. I printed this out. There's something called the Bristol Stool Chart. That's spelled B-R-I-S-T-O-L. So if you haven't heard of the Bristol Stool Chart, look it up online. You'll see lots of images, but I'll hold it up for you right here. Okay, so this Bristol Stool Chart rates your poop on a scale of 1 to 7. And when you look at this, and I'll show kids this too, right? I actually have an app that can track your poop and rate it along the Bristol Stool Chart.
There's an app for that.
There is an app for that. It's called the Poo Keeper. Now, I told my daughter I promised her I will not show on video what her poops look like, but you take a picture of your poop and you rate which number on the Bristol Stool Chart it is and keep track of it. So the ideal poop is going to be number 3 or number 4. Okay,
I'm screen sharing that.
So you have, perfect. Okay, so 3 or 4. So with number 3, it looks like a sausage, like a long sausage that maybe has some little bumps on it, but it's held together. Okay, number 4 is a smooth, brown, soft, long snake or banana or sausage. I'll tell kids, you know, what I want your poop to look like is a brown, smooth banana. I mean, that's ideal. Okay, but if it's got little lumps and clumps, that's okay. So if your poops are number 1 or 2, they're too hard. What's 1? Number 1 is the sort of pebble-like rock, you know, really clumpy poops that come out and can be sometimes painful. Number 2, right here are these, it looks like a sausage with lots of lumps in it, but it looks like the lumps are held together and that they could break apart, okay? Number 5, 6, and 7 are a little too loose. So number 1 and 2, we would say, well, that's more on the constipated side. Number 5, 6, and 7, that's really more on the diarrhea side or too loose side. So number 5 are these kind of fluffy, soft blobs that plop into the toilet. Might be super messy to wipe, right? Because you know, if a normal poop, it should be a really clean wipe, maybe 2 wipes, and that's it. So if you're having to wipe, you know, multiple times and it's smearing everywhere, then that's too mushy. Number 6,
and that's really easy for anyone to understand.
That's right. That's
1 or 2 wipes, that's a good thing. Any more than that, you got some questions.
That's right. and it shouldn't be painful, right? So we're looking at color, size, frequency, and consistency. And then number 6 is just when it's like a fluffy mess in the toilet, kind of mushy. 7 is totally liquid, right? So we're aiming for soft brown banana. Just think soft brown banana, okay? And
that's what we use at our house too. Like if one of my kids maybe takes too long in the bathroom, I'm like, did you have a book in there? Is the first, that's the first question.
Yeah.
And then like, you got brown bananas or something else going on, right? That's always my question too.
That's right. That's right. And you want to ask about wiping and frequency. You know, the frequency can really vary, but ideally it's going to be once or twice a day. You know, at the very least every other day, as long as it continues to stay nice and soft and well formed. If you're going, some kids actually will go multiple times a day, 3 times a day, and that's okay too, as long, again, as long as it's not too mushy and blobby and messy.
Okay, and then what are we learning from this? Like what does, if it's on the wrong end, either end of the scale, what do we do?
Well, so the reason why gut health is so important and what your poop looks like is so important is I let kids know what your poop looks like, you know, what your gut is doing tells us so much about how your brain is working and how your immune system is working, because there's this intimate connection between the gut and the brain and the gut and the immune system, and in fact the gut and every other organ system. You know, the gut is called the heart of our immune system, our second brain, and we really need to think about our gut as the first exposure to the world, right? We're basically this open tube, and what we put in our mouth and what comes at the end, you know, at our bottom, that's sort of one of our entry points to anything that we get exposed to, whether it's food or germs. And so with the gut immune system connection, the tonsils that we have up here, you know, in the back of our throat, we have these tonsil-like patches that line our entire GI tract and talk to our immune system, right? You know, we have over 70 trillion bacteria in our gut, and all of those bacteria hopefully are good bacteria. By now, many of your listeners have heard of the gut microbiome and probiotics. Well, those probiotics are those good bugs that talk to our immune system and communicate and let them know what's self, what's not self, what should we attack, what should we say, okay, that's okay for our immune system. And so a lot of gut dysregulation and abnormal bugs, which we can see in the way our poop looks and smells and how we're going, can actually contribute to immune dysfunction. Including things like asthma and eczema, allergies, autoimmune illnesses. Now, what about the gut-brain connection, right? Those same probiotics that help support our immune system also support our brain connection. And in fact, most of our neurotransmitters, many people have heard of serotonin, our feel-good hormone that helps us to stay relaxed and you know, manage stress more easily, help us to sleep well, and dopamine, which helps us to stay focused and pay attention and you know, stay motivated and inspired. Those neurotransmitters are made by our gut, by those probiotics. Maybe 80 to 90% of our neurotransmitters are made by our gut. So we want healthy gut bugs, we want healthy poop, we want healthy digestion. So that's where really focusing when kids come in and they have non-gut issues, right? Even if their tummy doesn't hurt at all and their poops might look okay, I still ask about the gut and start with the gut, you know, whether they have, you know, again, asthma, eczema, autism, ADHD, anxiety, autoimmune illness, because all health really does start in the gut.
That is fantastic. What I'm hearing you saying is, so the gut is the center of both our mental health, our brain health, and our bodily health. And the poop, to me, what I'm hearing you say is the poop is like an email or a text that the gut sends, right? Because we're not doing blood tests in our house. We're not testing our gut all the time. But there's one way every single day, hopefully every day, that we can see what's going on in there and get some ideas about how the gut is talking to the rest of our body.
Mm-hmm.
So,
absolutely. It's like, it's absolutely a poop text, a little signal, a little alarm bell that, okay, if your poop is off, let's pay attention before we really start seeing other problems cropping up.
Yeah, so many kids are constipated these days. I wrote a post, and we'll make sure we share the link to that and then anything else we talk about in this interview. But I wrote a post about children's constipation because it's really, I think, becoming a bigger and bigger problem.
Huge.
What's going on with that? Why are kids so constipated?
Yeah, you know, constipation is a huge problem, and one of the problems with constipation, we'll talk about, you know, some ways we can manage it. But in the conventional world, we have kids being put on Miralax, which is polyethylene glycol, you know, from a very young age, maybe in their toddler years, and on Miralax for years and years and years. And what parents need to understand is Miralax was never and has never been approved for use in children under 17 years of age. And it definitely has
not even for a little while?
Not even for a little while, right?
Ooh.
And it has not been approved for long-term use. So we have no idea, what this is doing long-term. And for parents who are listening, and if your kids are on Miralax, we can correct what's going on in your kid's gut. Don't worry, don't stress about, oh my gosh, I've already been on it for years, but just know there are other options, and there are other way healthier options that not just get your kids' poop moving, but get their intestinal lining and their digestive tract healthy and optimal so that the rest of their brain and immune system and their hormones can be healthy. So we just want to start from where we're at, right? But why are kids so constipated nowadays? I think two of the main factors are our lifestyle and our diets, right? Our modern diet. Now, stress. What happens when we're stressed? And who isn't stressed nowadays? Who isn't on the go, go, go? I mean,
Even
we were just
kids.
talking. That's right.
Yeah.
We were just talking before we started recording about how stressful life has been this summer. But when are people not stressed? I mean, when do you ever ask a mama or a papa, hey, how are you doing? Do you feel like you have all the time in the world to do what you want? Right? The first response is, oh my gosh, I'm so busy. Right?
Yep.
And
I heard that coming out of my mouth too often. And a while ago, I decided intentionally, I'm going to stop saying busy when people say, how are you? Because that's a crappy answer.
That's right. That's right. And because really, who isn't? And you make time for the things that you want to make time for, right? And we just need to slow down. But when we're in that, and our kids are busy, from school to soccer to art class to piano class. I mean, their schedule is often more hectic than our schedule because they're going to 3 or 4 different activities during the day. And so that puts us into this sympathetic fight or flight mode, right? Where we're just always kind of ready to run, ready to go. And when we're in that fight or flight mode, right, we go way back to the caveman days. You did not have time to stop and poop, right? You had time to be on the alert, get going, and, be prepared for anything, right? And so for on the go, we're not allowing that parasympathetic nervous system, that rest and digest part of our nervous system that helps us take in food, absorb it, use it to its optimal, and then flush out the waste. We're not allowing that part to happen appropriately. So I think stress is a huge factor. When you look at when you and I were kids, I mean, we weren't nearly as busy. I didn't have a schedule in the afternoon. Now, yes, life is different, but we would just hang out and play. I remember biking to my friends' houses, playing Red Rover, climbing trees, right? And then the wrong foods, the standard American diet, right? The SAD diet. It really has become sadder and sadder over the decades since we were young, and since, the microwave was introduced. When I remember getting our first microwave as a kid and being so excited, right? And, packaged foods, rice-a-roni was amazing as a kid, right? But now these packaged processed foods full of additives and sugar and gluten have really infiltrated our diets. And, the wrong foods, especially too much dairy and too much sugar, are huge culprits with constipation nowadays. So you're right, it actually is an increasing problem, but we've sort of created this problem, and actually we know how to kind of fix it if we really put our minds to it.
So the sympathetic and parasympathetic systems are mutually incompatible, right? When one is running, the other can't be. So literally, if you are running, your digestion can't be. I think that's important for parents to understand. Sometimes I have a stand-up desk. I don't know if you can tell I'm standing up right now. And I have to remind myself, when I'm eating, which I probably shouldn't eat at my desk either, but when I'm eating at my desk, at least I should sit down.
That's right.
That has to be the seated time. That has to be the restful time. And you shouldn't be so busy while you're eating and right afterwards. So what are some other things other than telling our kids to sit that we can do to help their systems keep going?
Yeah, well, I mean, the first thing is to really eat real food. And Katie, I think that's why the work you're doing with Kids Cook Real Food and really focusing on home cooked meals, easy home cooked meals and family meals and slowing down and being together at mealtime and being mindful about what you're eating. That's huge, right? I mean, that's one of the first steps. We really need to make sure kids understand, they don't eat on the run, right? We don't want them to eat their dinner on the way to soccer practice. I know that's the reality for a lot of kids, but that's not allowing your body to really assimilate and digest. Same thing. We should not, grab our breakfast and, eat, our bagels and cream cheese on the way to a 6 o'clock in the morning meeting, right? I mean, we really want to model that, right? But in terms of what other things we can do, right? Besides focusing on being mindful and slowing down, which is really, really, really a priority. If we don't do that, it's going to be an uphill battle. But magnesium, most kids and adults are deficient in magnesium. It's called the miracle mineral. Magnesium helps us to relax. It helps our muscles to calm down. It helps our brain to relax. But it also helps our stools to get softer and easier to flow. And so we can get magnesium in dark chocolate, green leafy vegetables, nuts and seeds. Another really great way to get magnesium into your system is Epsom salt baths. Just throw a half a cup into the bath water and just relax, and your skin is going to soak up that magnesium sulfate right through your skin. So focusing on magnesium-rich foods and sometimes supplementing with magnesium supplements if needed is really important. Hydration. Kids and adults chronically dehydrated. Right? I mean, most adults and most kids don't drink enough water. And what's a good rule of thumb? In general, you take your body weight in pounds, divide that number by 2, and that's about how many ounces of water you want to drink in a day, on a normal day, not on a day where you're super hot and sweaty and playing soccer and, running around, right? This is just a normal day. So if you have a kiddo, let's say you have, a first grader who maybe weighs about let's say 60 pounds, then you want them to drink at least 30 ounces of water, right? That means if they have, if they're bringing to school a 16-ounce little water bottle, right, that they need to drink at least 2 of those throughout the day. So I like to quantify, for kids to measure how big is their water bottle and give them a visual of how much they should be drinking throughout the day. Right. Yeah. I mean, I have this, right? This is actually a 24-ounce mason jar. I used to have a 20-ounce. But this is 24 ounces. So my goal is to have at least 3 of these each day, if not 4, right? So that visual helps, because otherwise you don't remember how much you drank or, when the last time was that you drank. Exercise is so key. Now, some kids are running around getting a lot of exercise. A lot of kids aren't. A lot of kids are sitting on their screens, doing their homework on their screens, playing video games, doing social media, whatever it is, but they're not moving. And in order for our poop and our intestines to get going, we need our legs to be pumping and moving, right? So whether it's riding a bicycle as a family, make it a family affair, because most kids are constipated, most adults are constipated, right? So, go on a hike, go for a family walk after dinner, but get going. If your child is not in any, organized sporting activity, there are many, many ways to get outdoors and enjoy exercise together as a family.
And jumping on a trampoline is especially good.
Absolutely. Now, as a pediatrician, I have to make sure that everyone uses a trampoline safely. But I mean, we do have a trampoline in our yard. It's quite a big trampoline, and we have a huge safety net around it, right? And we are as careful as possible not letting too many children jump at the same time, right? But trampolines are awesome, right? So finding a way to exercise, especially moving your legs, right? Trampoline, biking, running. And then, of course, fiber, right? This is where getting in our fruits and vegetables is really key, whether it's in smoothies or you're putting into, if your kids love salads, or sauteing, kale or spinach into your scrambled eggs, just finding ways to get in as many fruits and vegetables. I mean, 5 to 9 servings is ideal. I mean, if you can go for 9, it's a lot. It's a lot. If you're trying to get that many servings in, it's what I tell parents, if you're really and truly trying to get 5 to 9 servings of fruits and vegetables in your child's diet and in your diet, it's almost impossible to do that without having vegetables at every meal and snack, right? You just incorporate it. Right? We have vegetables at breakfast all the time, right? So you just want to make sure that you try to get in those fruits and vegetables whenever you can, and move away from, the kind of starchy, empty snacks like the crackers and, the popcorn and the chips, and the dairy. Right? Unfortunately, dairy is one of the number 1 culprits for constipation. And sometimes just getting rid of the dairy, and I mean by dairy, getting rid of all of it, just do a little trial for 2 weeks. Get rid of every single dairy, whether it's cultured or, cow's milk. Cow's milk is the biggest culprit. And in fact, we don't drink cow's milk in my family. We don't even have cow's milk at home. But we occasionally have yogurt, and we have cheese. But for some kids, getting rid of all dairy, cultured or not, for a period of time to let it wash out of your child's system, can make the biggest difference in the world. So that's another key feature as well.
That's interesting. That one's tough. Like in some ways, that's easy because it's very black and white, but it's really tough because kids love cheese and yogurt and milk usually, so that can be hard for families. But if your child's really constipated and it really hurts, and they're maybe experiencing brain fog at school, that is worth 2 weeks of figuring it out.
That's right. Well, and I'm glad that you mentioned the brain fog, right? And maybe some of the behavioral issues are not feeling well, because what I tell kids, if you're not pooping every day, I mean, what is poop? It's your body's way of getting rid of garbage, right?
Sure.
So imagine if you didn't take out the garbage from under the sink for a week, right? And you're still filling it with all your food scraps and your trash. What happens after a week? It starts to stink. It might get a little moldy, right? It just is not that great and healthy. And so when we keep poop inside our bodies, we don't feel great. We're not detoxifying appropriately. We might feel grumpy or foggy or irritable. And a lot of parents notice on the days where their kids poop, they're so much more calm and mellow, and then they start to back up again, and they get grumpy and cranky, and they're not sleeping well. So pooping is really important for for school performance and mental health, and feeling good, not just for that gut-brain connection with the neurotransmitters, but just for the fact that you're clearing the garbage out every day.
That is really important. I have some questions to ask one of my children who gets cycles of crankiness now, so thank you. Now, other than constipation, anything else that we should be looking for, poo problems that we can potentially fix?
Yeah, so so many kids have reflux nowadays, right? And infants. I mean, many infants from birth are being diagnosed with reflux and colic and being put on antacid medications. So that's another big tip off, that your gut is your baby's gut may be dysregulated. There's so many ways we can really help to manage infant reflux naturally without needing to resort to antacids. And in fact, there was a huge study that came out in April of 2018. So not too long ago, almost 800,000 kids, that showed that infants who were given either antibiotics or antacid medications in the first 6 months of life had a hugely significantly increased rate of every single allergic disease by the time they were 4. And that includes anaphylactic food allergies, other food reactions, hives, asthma, eczema, allergies. I mean, you name it. And so, the speculation on the researchers' part was that those early antibiotic or antacid medications disrupt the gut microbiome, disrupt the gut health and normal regulation, so that it sets the stage. Remember that gut immune system connection. It sets the stage for this inappropriate education of the immune system that then tips it over into this allergic response. So again, if your kids have eczema or asthma and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I did put my kid on Zantac, using a functional medicine integrative approach, we can heal your child's gut and we can reverse a lot of what's happened. But if you have the opportunity, if you have a baby, who is spitting up and your pediatrician or healthcare practitioner is saying, oh, they have reflux, let's try Zantac, you can say, well, let me try some other things like baby probiotics, right? Chamomile tea for you as a mama if you're nursing, and even a little bit for the baby. Acupressure points. I teach parents acupressure points to use on their babies because I do acupuncture as well. Cool. But to really help, get those digestive juices flowing in the right direction and going down instead of going up, right? So that's a really important thing to know. And in fact, on my YouTube channel, I've done a summit interview where I actually go through with my little baby doll, that's sitting right here next to me, on acupressure points and different things that we can do for infant reflux. So that's a resource for everyone. But then, I had mentioned before too that a lot of times your kids will have poop and digestive issues without even realizing it, without anything obvious, except for the fact that they have other symptoms that we know are associated with gut imbalance, like, eczema, autoimmune illness, sensory processing issues, behavioral concerns, autism, anxiety, sleep disturbances. Any of those, as I said before, all health starts in the gut. That's one of the main principles of functional medicine. And whenever you have anything going on with your kid, you want to start looking at their gut, finding out how often are they pooping, what does their poop look like, and also finding a practitioner who can maybe do some specialized stool testing for you to see where are the imbalances and what can we do. If people are interested, I went through all that. I actually did a long 3-part Facebook Live series, 3 parts, all about gut health in kids. That's either on the Facebook page, or I put it on YouTube just because some people don't do Facebook, and it's easier for them. Right. But I want parents to know, if there's something going on with your kid and you're not quite sure, or if they're on medications for whatever illness and you're just thinking, well, they're still not as healthy as they could be. I feel like there could be something more. Start with their gut. Make sure they're pooping regularly. Bring out that Bristol stool chart. Have them keep track of their poop. Use the Poo Keeper app. If you're using apps, with you or your children, and then make sure that they're pooping really, really regularly. I forgot to mention probiotics are another way that we really want to make sure that we get into our kids if our kids are having any gut problems, whether it's constipation or diarrhea or reflux. And there are probiotics that are specific for infants under 2, but parents want to know that probiotics, when you're over about 2 or 3 years of age, your gut microbiome looks very similar to an adult's microbiome. So any kid over 2 or 3 can get the same probiotic that you're getting as an adult. So once your kids are over 3, then the whole family can get the same probiotic. But probiotics, we want to get in all those good bugs that are probably not there in sufficient numbers if your kids have constipation or diarrhea, or if they've ever had antibiotics or ever had, antacid medications, or they've ever had, junky food or stress in their life. I mean, all of these factors, really, really serve to disrupt our gut. So if we are proactive and get in those probiotics either through a supplement or through fermented foods like sauerkraut or real pickles or, kefir or cultured yogurts, whether it's dairy or coconut or almond yogurt or cashew yogurt if you're dairy sensitive or allergic.
What I love about all this, Dr. Song, is that you give so much hope. It's like we do a lot of things in our culture and in our families that hurt us, right? But our bodies are resilient, and there's so many ways. I just love that you kept saying it's okay. You can fix this, and there's ways to work with functional medicine practitioners and do testing and kind of go like the big route for bigger problems. But there's so many things we can do at home with our food and our supplements and our lifestyle that are not that hard. Yes, challenging, but anything worthwhile is.
That's right. And it's just about getting into a rhythm, right? Getting into making new habits. Because right now your habit might be to eat out, 4 days a week and maybe do takeout another night and then maybe cook a meal on the weekends. And, you start where you are, right? But it starts with making sure that, you focus on eating real food, cooking real food, getting in the kitchen with your kids, getting them invested also in knowing and understanding what real food is and what's healthy for our bodies and our brains in terms of lifestyle and stress and food. And I love that you said, well, our bodies know how to move in the right direction if we give them a chance, right? Really, our bodies are designed to move back in the direction of health. But we need to understand what forces are moving them towards not being that well, and the points where we can intervene to move back towards health. And many of these things, they're simple things that we can do, right? You don't need a pill, but we need to invest time, right? And we need to invest our energy into doing it. And then, our kids will thrive, and we'll thrive as parents, and we'll thrive as families.
Yes, the great thing is that we do get the time back, I think. If you're investing time in your kids' health, hopefully you're avoiding time spent in doctor's offices, you're avoiding time spent in homework battles, time spent rubbing their back because they have a stomach ache, those are things that come up, and we do them because they're urgent and emergent. But if we can take the time invested in good health first, getting those good foods on the table, teaching our kids to cook, then we can have a kind of an easier, less stressful life in the future. That's the hope, at least. No guarantees, but we do our best. Gosh, thank you so much, Dr. Song, for being here. Loved talking about poop with you and the ins and the outs of digestion, and I really think this is going to be a fantastic interview for parents. And so we're going to leave you parents with that challenge to figure out a baby step, whether it's how much water does your kid need? I'm going to go out and write on my kids' water bottles how much they should have. We're going to do the math this afternoon. That's my baby step. What's yours? Is it exercise? Is it one new food? Getting some leafy greens in your kids? Starting a probiotic? There's a lot. Pick one. pick a different one next week and a different one the week after that. And, you know, you really can have healthy kids, happy kids. We'll make sure that we have links to anywhere you can find Dr. Song online, anywhere we share this video. But definitely look her up at, got to say this right, healthykidshappykids.com, because there's a wealth of information there. Thank you so much, Dr. Song.
Oh, thanks, Katie, for having me. It was a pleasure, and I hope that your parents and all the mamas and papas and grandparents listening, just as Katie said, take one step forward because it's so worth it.
Great, and everyone come back next week for some more inspiration to keep your kids healthy. Thank you.